Alright, what is up, my good people? So I had a little bit of coffee, which is not something I usually do. Well, if I do, I try to drink decaf coffee because I know I get super hyper. But in any case, earlier I was reading this book. It's backwards, but it's called Grit by Angela Duckworth. And so she articulated some things that I think about quite a bit and filled me with all sorts of insights, and now I'm just kind of spewing them. And maybe by ranting, I will capture something that I had not previously thought of, because I'm definitely like a think out loud kind of person. In any case, as always, I don't really have a plan for this, so I'm just kind of like gonna go with wherever the thoughts lead. But in any case, so what Miss Duckworth said, or Mrs., or actually Dr. Duckworth talks about is, this book, Grit, is essentially about the power of passion and perseverance. And so what she means by grit is just this quality that some people have to like really push hard on challenges and goals and things. And so she continuously makes the point that, you know, as a society we value talent, but what really counts is effort. Because, well, sure, some people are born talented. The vast majority of us, only get to being good at things by putting in a lot of time and effort. And so this is something that's really been important in my own life, and I guess that's why it really struck me. And so, continuing this line of thought, so I was reading this morning, and so she started quoting Dan Chambliss, who was my sociology professor in college, my favorite professor in college, because in just one semester with him, I learned some like really profound things. And to sum up kind of the most important one of those, the line that always repeats in my mind is, action is the source of all reality. And the meaning of that is that, you know, people have all sorts of beliefs about who they are and what they want to do, what they're passionate about, etc. But at the end of the day, like, talk is cheap, you know? And so action is where the proof is. You know, you say you're really passionate about something, well, how much time do you spend doing it? You know, and so Chambliss would always give many examples, and one example that he gave is he went to his friend's house, and the friend's dad had like all this high school football paraphernalia and stuff. The guy was a champion. He was an awesome quarterback back in high school, and here he is 50 years later, you know, still holding on to that. And he's like, oh, you know, that's who I really am, is the point. You know, like, what we do makes us who we are, and some people are very attached to the past, but it's what we're doing now that really matters, not in the past, and also not in the future, and in some cases not even in the present. But we're not going to go down that weird philosophical tangent. In any case, action is the source of all reality, and so the proof is in what you actually do, and so that is very true of grit. And so it comes back to this idea of, like, you know, some people have natural talent and others have to work really hard at things. And I've always kind of been of the belief that, like, working hard is kind of the better way to go. Like, sure, if you're really talented, that's great, but in this other book I read called Flow, which is my favorite book, by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, or something like that, I don't know how to pronounce it. The point he makes is that all happiness is derived from our ability to identify and respond to challenges. And so if you're very talented, you don't necessarily have to identify and respond to challenges because you already kind of get it, so to speak. Whereas if you're not very talented, the challenge becomes to make it look as though you are. Let me give you an example, just because there's a guitar right here, and I can play it. So, I played guitar for, gosh, I don't know how long, 17 years now, which is the majority of my life. And, you know, I always tell people, the first 10 years of that, I was really bad at it, you know, and so I feel like I had to work harder than most people to be, like, good at the guitar. I still don't even consider myself all that good, but, you know, I can do some pretty cool stuff. You know, like that, it sounds good, and to an untrained person, meaning like not me, you know, a lot of people will think, oh, that's so good, and they'll tell me, oh, you're so talented, and I'm like, well, actually, not really, you know, like, I can just make shit up now after many years of hard work that other people will think is really good, but really I'm not even being that creative. Like, I know when I'm in kind of my creative spot and I'm like really nailing stuff, and it doesn't just mean like, first of all, because that's all in a box, it's this box. And, you know, I'm just doing like really simple rhythmic stuff. So, like, let's say I get out of that box and I'm doing. I don't know if you can actually hear this or not. I hope you can. Well, it doesn't really matter. In any case, you know, there's kind of like rules to like how to play guitar well. And so the point is to master the guitar and to make guitar sound good, all you really have to do is master several small things one after the other. And so that's one way to go about it. The other way is to just be born really good at it. And I know some people like that, and they kind of blow my mind. But I guess the point is, you know, if you're really passionate about just about anything, just put in the time, you know, and over time, you get better at it. And that's kind of what grit is. It's kind of trusting that process. Because as Woody Allen says, you know, 80% is just showing up. 80% of success is just showing up. There's a lot of people who, you know, they'll start a skill that they think will be fun, and inevitably, anything that you try is inevitably going to challenge you after some level of time. Unless, again, you're like a born natural. But most of us aren't, you know? And how you respond to that is what really matters. And that's how you prove if you're actually, like, passionate. And so, you know, in terms of, like, personal philosophy, I just try to, like, live by that, you know? And I like other people who live by that, too, because it's like, again, talk is cheap. You say like, there's nothing that doesn't take work is kind of the bottom line, you know, and some people try to avoid work in whatever way they can, and honestly, they're denying themselves a fantastic opportunity to identify and respond to challenges, which is, again, the source of all happiness. So it's like, by working, you get happy. By working at something that you care about. I'm not talking about work in the sense that, like, it's mundane and you hate it and it's boring and stuff. I'm talking about work where over long periods of time, you make slow incremental progress, and then next thing you know, it just comes naturally. So that's kind of the idea. And so there's so much philosophy wrapped up in all this. It's great. I'm glad this is helpful to you, Kylie. So like, again, the proof is in what you actually do. So if you say you're passionate about something, like, go make some time for it. Or, because the other thing is, you just got to be honest with yourself. If you don't actually make time for all the things that you say you're passionate about, you need to kind of reassess your motivation and whether you're actually passionate about those things. I'm not saying you're not. I'm just saying, prove it. Prove it. Because if it actually makes you happy, you actually will gain happiness from proving it. And if it doesn't, if you're not really passionate about something, then proving it and trying to put in all sorts of hard work and things is ultimately going to drain you. So I'm not trying to say that, like, you can't be passionate about things. No, you absolutely are passionate about certain things and not about others. So there are certain things that when you do them and put in the time and put in the effort will really benefit you mentally. And again, there's other things that won't. So it's really just about identifying the things that will and then doing more of those. As I sit here after recently changing careers to, like, make music all the time, essentially, and in various related things. So it's like, just like follow your heart, man, because it'll take care of you that way. It's like doing what you love energizes you and makes you happy in a million different ways, and doing what you hate has the opposite effect. And I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Sorry, I'm just flipping through this a little bit. The other thing is, like, Well, so I'm only like 3 chapters into this book, so I can't really speak too much to like how do you develop these. I kind of want to hear what she has to say. But again, for me, it all comes down to identifying and responding to challenges. And you know, some days you're going to want to, and some days you're not. But the point is making time to putting forth your best foot, putting your best foot forward, putting your best effort forward as often as possible. And if you're curious about any tips to do that, so a couple of things work really well for me. Is every day I meditate every day, first thing in the morning and at 5:30 p.m. But the other thing I do is when I finish meditating, I have a little whiteboard, and I write down some different goals and then how I'll work towards them this afternoon or this today. And so I keep a log too of like what are my goals on like Google Docs. What are all my goals and like how am I working towards them? And then at the end of each day, I also reflect like how did that go, and some days you get a lot done, and other days you don't. But one thing I've noticed is that by keeping better track of all this, I've really just made it all sorts of progress. In terms of the more practical aspects of that, what I've found is that if you want to master a skill or just be productive in general, the first thing you need to do is to sort of establish space to do that. That can be physical space, but for me it's also really mental space. So for example, like 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. especially is like my really deep creative time. And I try not to use my phone during that, I try not to have any distractions during that time, just work. And again, some days it's great, and other days it's really hard. But at the end of the day, that time, I keep my butt in the chair and, I work, because at the end of the day, it's kind of a professionalism thing. Like, you're not just, like, doing art as an amateur and, like, for fun, because, as an amateur, it's like, whenever you feel like doing it, you do, and then as soon as it starts going sour, you kind of shy away. And you never actually progress that way. Or you can progress, but you progress very slowly. If you just sit your ass down and you are going to stay in that chair come whatever happens, you're going to progress really fast. And that's kind of how the professional works, because the professional it's actually not as attached to the work that's being made. The amateur says, oh, this work is so good, I'm so inspired, wonderful. They derive a lot of self-worth from it. The professional says, oh, great, sometimes that's great, but other times they also recognize that it's hard. And it's going to be hard whether you like it or not sometimes. And the amateur no longer can derive self-worth from it when it gets hard, whereas the professional doesn't derive self-worth from it in the first place, and the professional works through it, whereas the amateur does not. Phrase that in a weird way, but I think the point is clear. So yeah, like working through the hard stuff is kind of where all the growth happens, I find. And that, again, comes back to this concept of grit. It's like you have to persevere not just when things are going well, but when things are not going well, to really, really grow. And so going back to what I was saying earlier, like I really appreciate this quality. I've come to appreciate it in myself, but I really appreciate it in others too. Like I'm sick of, being I was in a band recently, and I felt like I practiced more hours than everyone else combined. And like, on the one hand, like, cool, that's neat, right? Because, oh, look at me, I'm so hardworking and stuff. But I actually don't give a shit. It was extremely frustrating that no one would like be in that with me. No one else was kind of as committed as I was. And the same is true of, for example, like relationships, kind of a touchy subject, I feel like, but are you willing to work or are you not? Are you willing to work through both the good and the bad, or are you not? Because it's not the good where you really make the most growth. It's really working through the bad stuff. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I will say one more point, which is that, as a society, I think I mentioned this before, as a society, we kind of value like natural talent more than we value hard work. And it's because this idea is packaged and sold to us that you can just get whatever you want and it won't cost you anything. It's really great for selling products because it's like, you feel bad, well, we can help you with that, try this. And so then after a while that fades off, and then you feel bad again and say, oh, try this, Like I see these ads for self-help courses that literally say, this is the easiest way to make the most progress. And it's like, you're missing the point. The point is to work. It's not to find the easy way out to make a bunch of progress. The point is to make progress by actually putting in hard work, not just easy stuff, you know? Because otherwise you're never going to deal with the hard stuff. And it's always going to be like deep down kind of tearing you up. So, and like, I realize that a lot of people probably don't want to hear that because I'm saying like, oh, sorry, like, you can't avoid it. You're going to have to work sometime. But at the end of the day, when you do work, it is incredibly rewarding. And again, some people recognize that and others don't. And I kind of like more the people who do because it's like you can really see and feel their progress and their inspiration. You know, I think as a songwriter, for example, it's like I'll try to write pretty much every day. And about 1 in 4 days, it'll be good. The other 3 out of 4 days is absolute crap. Well, maybe not absolute. About 1 out of 4 days is absolute crap, and then the other 2, it's like in the middle somewhere. When it's absolute crap, I don't just like get up and leave because I know that at any point it could go well, you know. And so I think of it as earning your inspiration. You earn inspiration by sticking to your craft and just being fucking stubborn enough to just be like, oh, this isn't good, whatever, I'm going to keep doing it because I like this and I'm passionate about it and I will persevere no matter what the freak happens. You know, there's a quote in here today from Will Smith and he's like, look, I got to where I am from hard work and that's the best quality that I have, you know. Other people, they're more creative than I am, they're more, you know, they're more attractive than I am, they're more talented. But one thing that no one will outdo me in is if you put me on a treadmill and the other person on a treadmill, one of 2 things is going to happen. The other person is going to step off the treadmill first, or I'm going to die on that treadmill. You know, he's not going to step off the treadmill. He's going to work harder than anyone else, no matter what happens. And that is the quality that I think we need to develop in ourselves to really be happy and to kind of realize our full potential is like not shying away from the hard things and the things that challenge us. Because again, it's coming back to that central idea, it's our ability to identify and respond to challenges that makes us happy in the first place. It's not our ability to just like get instant gratification and like to divert our attention, which again is kind of what we're trained to do, and it harms us, you know. So anyway, that's a rant. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Keep doing what you love, basically. And if you really love it, it'll be worth the effort. It won't be fun all the time. You know, that's not the point. The point isn't to have something that's fun all the time. The point is to just stick it out. Okay, one more thing. I'm sorry, I do this. I do this often, but it's an important distinction to make is between pleasure and enjoyment. Pleasure is sort of what we think of as instant gratification, but it doesn't ultimately lead to long-term growth, whereas enjoyment is something that can be not pleasurable in the moment, but over time we look back and we say, wow, this is pretty cool. And I am growing from, you know, enjoyment does lead to personal growth because there's sort of an enjoyable aspect of kind of developing your skills and going from that to that, you know. It's just cool to be able to do that. I don't know, it's just kind of fun because I realized that 10 years ago I could barely, you know, really do anything interesting. I forget if I mentioned this, but I was like terrible for the first 10 years that I played guitar. And then it kind of started coming together. And so the way that it comes together is just through that hard work, you know, through the thick and thin. What I never understood about myself is why I didn't give it up. And the only really possible explanation is that I really do enjoy it, you know, because to suck at something for that long, and to like in terms of pleasure, I hated it. In terms of enjoyment, I guess I did enjoy it, but like playing guitar was a chore and like it was hard and it didn't sound good for many years until eventually something just clicked and I started loving to play. What really changed actually was I I got not this guitar, but a different guitar that was really fun to play. It was really like smooth and easy to play and stuff. Really fast neck and the neck of the guitar. You could move your fingers fast. Like this guitar's pretty fast too, but that one's even faster. In any case, sorry, I get so distracted when I'm holding the guitar. In any case, like, once it became really fun for me to practice, then I just started putting in stupid amounts of time and practice and effort, and now I would say I'm like pretty good. But the bottom line is, developing mastery of anything is not magic. It's actually the opposite. It's the most mundane things that we do over and over again, and just little bit by little bit, we get a little bit better until after, 5, 10, 20 years, we're pretty good at it. And then other people look at us and they think, oh, he must be so talented. He must have always been this way, And part of that psychology is they don't themselves want to do the work to cultivate that action. If someone has always been this way and they were never bad, if they just have a natural gift, then it takes away the responsibility of actually doing what you love and developing, because it's the mindset that, like, work doesn't count for anything. Someone was just born this way, they're always going to be good, I'm always going to be bad, no amount of work can change this. No, you're freaking deluded. Your work pays. You gotta trust that the work pays off, and then you'll want to work, and then you will work, and then you will start to develop, and then you'll start to believe in the work, which will make you want to work more and harder, and then you'll develop more. And next thing you know, people are like, "Wow, he's so naturally talented," and yeah, it's a weird dynamic with like societal conditioning. That's like, people are just born this way. No, people are not born this way. We just want to believe that to avoid the responsibility of actually cultivating what we want to cultivate, which again is a hard process. We resist those hard times when it's really hard and kind of painful and things like that. One final anecdote. I'm going to put this down so I don't get super distracted. But one final anecdote about this concept of grit. So, there's a couple anecdotes I could say here, and I'm going to say the slightly less emotionally charged and extremely personal one. The slightly less one is like meditation retreats. So when I went on my first meditation retreats are the hardest thing I've ever done. Like 10 days silence meditating, like 10, 11 hours a day. Really, really challenging stuff. By day 3, you're like, this sucks. I want to leave, But it's kind of determination that gets you through, and it's grit that gets you through. The reason she started this research one of the reasons was West Point cadets. When you go to West Point, the very first thing you do before freshman orientation is like sort of like boot camp. It's really intense, 7 weeks of like hard physical work, and so they were trying to predict why some people make it through that and why others don't, and they found that it has nothing to do with intelligence. It has nothing to do with SAT scores or all sorts of other predictive factors. What it came down to was this grit idea of how much people would persevere. And so then they started developing tests and things like that to kind of determine like who has grit and who doesn't. And meditation retreats are the same way. It's like this really challenging thing that some people are going to get through and other people won't. And why do some people get through it and others don't? Well, you could argue that it is, again, grit, which is that perseverance quality. And so reflecting on this in my own life, my first meditation retreat, I literally was like, I cried every day. It was hard. It was, at the time, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Since then, the more recent meditation retreats I've done after that, I think, are the harder things. But at the time, it was the hardest thing I've ever done, and so I was just like this melting puddle of misery and rumination and things, and just crying a lot and feeling so much pain and whatever. And I don't know why I stayed. You know, reflecting on it though, I realized that like yeah, I feel like I'm a pretty gritty person. You know, I have a lot of perseverance and determination, and so that was kind of the first. That was almost like a turning point in my life to kind of realize like just because this is hard doesn't mean I can't do it. You know, and in fact, I discovered this quality of me that really wants to work hard, and really wants to just like push the limit and just go, 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 and just like I don't freaking care like how much it destroys me and how much pain I feel. Like if I have a goal, I'm freaking chasing it no matter what. And so once you've ingrained that mindset in yourself, it's like you're freaking unstoppable, or it feels like I feel like I'm unstoppable, you know, because I know that like if I have a goal, I'm fucking going for it. Like end of story. I don't give a shit what stands in my way, which is really great. You know, it's fun to work that way and it's rewarding. All of my life before that mindset and before that first meditation retreat was like really just kind of seeking the easy way out, looking for instant gratification, you know, that sort of thing. Once I really realized the power of hard work to make me a happier and just like more interesting and cool and whatever kind of person, once I kind of realized that you get there through the hard work, you become a lot more willing to do that hard work. So, bottom line of all this, to kind of come back to the central point, is just don't be afraid of hard work, man. If you really care about something, go out and do it. And if you you know, and challenges are gonna arise, and if the challenges knock you down, then grit is what is gonna get you back up, you know, and keep working towards it. And that's the quality that you have to develop in yourself. It won't come instantly, but it will come with diligence and practice if you really care about something. You know, so just keep getting back up because it's gonna keep knocking you down, but you just gotta keep getting back up. And that's how you really, in my opinion, that's how you get to happiness. That's how you earn happiness. You don't just become happy. It's not like some mystical, like weird conversion, like some god far off above the clouds suddenly changes his mind and he says, okay, you can be happy now. No, that's not what happens. You know, if you want to be happy, you have to step through every single step along the way to get from here to there, you know, or if happiness isn't your, you know, financial well-being, you know, there's a lot of different goals that you can think about in life, you know, like I have a sheet here because I actively think about all these things. You know, you can think about your relationships with people, both, you know, friends and family, but also significant others. You know, one goal is to have a lot of fun and to really enjoy yourself. You know, be healthy, have plenty of money, of course, personal development, having a good physical environment, and having a good career. Those are all very useful things that you get there by working. You know, you don't just, it's not some like click and it changes that has nothing to do with you, but rather identify your goals and freaking work your butt to the ground towards them because it is going to be hard. But you have to realize that your goals are worth working for and that you will be happier when you start working and achieving things and like getting better at things. And yeah, so once you realize that some aspects of work are like intrinsically rewarding, you won't be afraid to work all the time. You know, it won't always be easy, but you'll stick it out and you'll make some really beautiful things. And yeah, and I think that's kind of all of our jobs. You know, that's everyone's job as an individual is to realize their full potential. You know, and so part of the reason I share this is because I want to help you cultivate your own potential. And if you have any questions or comments or whatever it is, as always, feel free to leave a comment or send me a message or reach out. You know where to find me. But yeah, I think that's all. So thank you for tuning in. This has been interesting, enjoyable. Yeah, so cultivate perseverance and you will be rewarded for your efforts. All right, be well. Happy weekend. See you soon.